Welcome back to the Gaming Tailgate Podcast. Tommy, since we last talked, the game has finally released. We're on the other side of it. Depending if you pick up that standard edition or the deluxe edition, depends if you've been playing the game for 5 days or closer to 9 to 10 days by the time people hear this. I think let's get right into just kind of our thoughts on the game. Maybe we'll go feature by feature, and we will talk about community thoughts as well. But I do want to mention at the gamingtailgate.com, we have guides up for how to use the stunts feature. We have a guide on the celebrations. We have more coming in the future, so make sure to check that out. I think it's worth mentioning quickly, there was a title update, depending when you listen to this, on Tuesday. I would say smaller update, but if you ran into the issue where you couldn't snap the ball or couldn't kick field goals, this was a pretty big update. So I'm glad to see it. I don't know that we need to break through this, but I do get the impression a bigger update is coming because they mentioned a full campus title article coming for our next title update, whether that be August, hopefully sooner than later, but it's not like something bigger is coming down the pipeline. But Tommy, let's get right into it. I know we asked the community this, and we'll get into their thoughts in a few minutes here. Tommy, what did you think when you fired up 26 and you played the beta? If you want to give any kind of comparison there, but generally, what were your thoughts on 26 finally when you got to play it last week, starting on Monday?
I kind of said this before the launch, and then I'll kind of echo it after the launch. To me, gameplay wise, gameplay is a lot looser. And to me, that's a good thing. By that, I mean that, running the ball and ball carrier movements, you're not stuck into animations like you were in 25 a
Mm,
lot, and even years in past. So to me, that it's a lot looser and it feels good in that sense. You have more
mm,
control without but at the same time, it's not like every player is a superhuman, can
mm,
do everything kind of thing. So, gameplay overall, it to me, it's a pretty big improvement. There's still some frustrating issues, not just bugs, but just kind of some of
mm,
the designs of what they've done with the game. So
mm,
hopefully some of that gets kind of tuned and tweaked a little bit. Don't go over the top in pulling some things back and don't
mm,
ruin kind of the difficulty at launch just because some people may have not liked it or something.
mm,
But at the same time, the new quarterback animations, the defensive backs not being able to pick every single thing that comes near them.
mm,
To me, those are all very good improvements. The tackling, animation wise,
mm,
it feels similar. Obviously, it's totally different because it's
mm.
physics, but it's still footballs and they're still using similar animations as last year.
Right.
But at the same time, it looks and plays more smoothly. Now that said, there's still some weird not glitches, but kind of some weird
Oddities.
visuals that happen
Mm,
from time to time strictly because of the physics-based tackling. So
mm,
over time that'll continue to improve. I'm not saying with
mm,
26. I mean, maybe that'll improve a little bit, but I'm saying in the years to come. So, long story short, I think the game is good overall. It's
mm,
largely a quality of life improvement. There's still some things that are bugs today that, like you said, EA
mm,
is should be releasing a patch soon. That
mm,
hopefully most of those are addressed. But at the same time, it's one of those that we kind of know this with every launch. The first 2 weeks, it's just
rough.
kind of getting your hands on the game, kind of getting a feel for it. But you know that EA is going to make major changes in terms of bug fixes and tweaks
Mm.
and tuning within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
I have several things I've noted from the community, so let's bounce around a little bit. You mentioned four of them, so we're gonna bounce around a little bit here. The physics, I know you mentioned it. What are your thoughts on it? I will say, like, generally, I think I like it better than 25. I don't know that's going on a big limb there. I mean, there's still some oddities, and I don't know if I'm getting used to it or if two of these smaller updates have rectified some of it. It was kind of jarring at first to see players, be able to lean backwards, but they could still grab the ball at weird angles below their hips, which in real life you wouldn't be able to do. I don't know if I'm getting used to it or maybe that got fixed. I can't say that I've noticed it much the last few days, but maybe, like I said, maybe I'm just getting used to it. What are your thoughts on the physics? I think people like it. I haven't seen a lot of complaints about it. The knock I've seen from some people is that now it makes the game too similar to Madden. But if it's a better system and Madden happens to have it, they can't really say no to it.
Right, yeah. As I say, at the end of the day, yes, it's going to be the
Mm,
same engine as Madden. It's
mm,
going to, be the previous year's point 0.5 version of
mm,
gameplay or something like that in a lot of cases. But at the same time, it is an improvement.
mm,
I still think they have a little ways to get there, but at the same
mhm,
time, it's much better than what we had in the past, and it's definitely on the road in the right direction.
mm,
Um, like you said. definitely some oddities, some strange animations, not just the catches like you were talking about, but just, players running into each other and
Mm,
it not, not happening like you would expect it to, things like that. But again, it's things that over time will improve and it'll get better. To me, I think it plays well
mhm.
in relation to the physics. I think it plays well, but it can only get better.
What are your thoughts on running the ball? This is a big thing that when we ask the community their thoughts, and if you go through X or you go through Reddit, there are a lot of people I've noticed over the last 9 days saying, I'm struggling to run the ball. And I'll admit, I am firmly in that camp. I'm struggling to run the ball. I've tried different things. Have you cracked the code on how to run the ball in the game? And if so, I have notes ready to go to write this down.
To me, I'm pretty good at running the ball. A
Okay.
lot of that is mixture in the type of plays I'm calling, not just,
Mm,
dives down the middle
right.
or anything like that. Um, you do have to mix in the passing game to kind of,
Hmm.
the CPU. I will say the CPU seems more intelligent this year. Not perfect, but more intelligent. Like they will adjust to what you're doing, and if you focus on one area and keep calling the same plays, then they're going to work to stop that. So first tip, just like always in the past, but especially more so this year, mix up your play calling. And that's types of run, types of pass, etc. The second one, and this has always been the case, but it's always good to echo it. If you see two high safeties, that's when you should be running the ball. If you see a single high safety, then that's when you should be passing the ball. The big thing, obviously, is if you have a safety down in the box, then obviously there are going to be more people closer to the ball and be ready to stop the run. Whereas in the past, they're going to have to either be playing cover three, cover one, cover zero, something like that. And so, again, they're not as equipped to stop the pass in a lot of those cases. So, and as always, kind of in that same note, always run where you have the numbers.
Mm.
So if they're stacked to one side of the field, then run away from that. It's simple, but at the same time, it is that is important. But in general, though, I haven't like it depends upon who I've played, and I've only played the computer, and I played probably four user games so far.
Hmm.
Um, Against the users, I don't seem to run the ball very well, but I seem to pass the ball really well.
Hmm.
But before this latest patch, they were running the ball all over me. So again, it's kind of a little bit of a mixed bag, depending upon probably part of it depending upon the team you're using and
Right.
who you're playing and that kind of thing. So
I kind of think the game,
um,
intentional or otherwise, they've made it so like you need to really know your roster, have the proper playbook and play calling with it, and it helps to have a really good player. My best running game was against JB. I was as Louisville, and their running back, and his name escapes me right now. He's like a 93 overall. Like that was the best running game I had, and I think a lot of that was I have one of the best running backs in the game. It just played out really well to do that. I do have to ask you, you mentioned the computer being smarter. Something I noticed in 25, you can let me know if you agree with it. And then something I saw on Reddit this evening. I felt in 25, especially on the defensive side, if I went to do coverage shells, I felt like that messed up the computer. I mean, in a good way, in a realistic way, that, I was, disguising my coverages, help with the pass defense. That's one of the reasons I think a lot of people were so frustrated when that feature got broke mid-year and then it never got fixed until 26 came out. A user on Reddit, I saw him say, when people struggling on offense, he said, you know, disguise everything, show blitz, but not really blitz. Change your coverage on every play, or, your coverage shell every play. That the computer will you can fool the computer in a good way, not a cheese the computer kind of way, but in terms of realistically, they're expecting this one thing, they're not getting it, they can't handle it. Are you kind of seeing that? I've done that a little bit, not as much as I should, because I'm still trying to learn the basics, still and get the core going. But do you kind of feel like that kind of goes with what you were saying before about, mixing things up?
Yeah, I think it definitely helps. And like you said, knowing your roster really helps. So if you're on defense and your guys,
Mm.
can't do man coverage, don't call man coverage as much, that kind
Mm.
of thing. I have noticed that a lot of, especially the lower rated teams, the
Mm.
safeties are slow. So you're going to get beat over the top if you're not ready for it, kind of thing. Like most
Mm.
safeties, are generally 88, 86 speed kind of thing.
Mm.
Whereas the receivers are, 91, 93. So
Right.
again, you're going to get beat if you're not careful. So there's that. But in the whole, I have done a mixed in a little bit of the disguising the coverage. My problem is I change the coverage shell at the play call menu and then forget to change it back the next play, so I kind
Hmm.
of get caught there, caught off
Right.
guard there. So that's one thing. I will say what I saw in 25, and this may be placebo effect. I've done it some in 26, and I think it's still effective. But if you come out in a defense, any defense,
Mhm.
and then you hot route after you come out onto the field, it seems like the CPU was ready for your initial play, but they're not ready for what you audibled to.
Mhm.
I said hot route, but I meant if you audible to another play,
Right.
then the CPU is not going to be ready for what you audible to. Now, again, it's not going to be 100% effective, but it
Mhm.
seems to help. It's almost like, I hate to suggest it, but it's almost like the CPU knows what you came out in,
It
but
does.
doesn't know what you hot routed to. I mean,
Right.
it's not entirely, you know, I don't believe that to actually be the case, but there is some credence to it. So.
That's a long-standing community thought, though, even back to the NC football days, that come out one thing but audible to something else. Because there's a lot of people like even on 25 who would say, your mind's gonna be blown. If you just run your entire offense, call one thing but audible to something else. Because the computer defense is way worse. So I think there is something to that. I'm not good at that yet because I haven't set my audibles yet. I'm still using base playbooks and just trying to get that figured out first.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is something to kind of experiment and see what
Mm,
works for you. It definitely mix up your coverages. If you call a match zone
mm.
coverage, don't use the shading over the top
Over the
or
top.
underneath because that basically resets it to the type of zone that it was before.
Mm,
So like if you are in match and let's say it's a buzz match zone,
mm,
they'll drop to their zones instead of playing the match coverage. That was an issue on 25 as well. So it's kind of something to be aware of that if you shade them over the top, then now all of a sudden you're in a traditional zone, not in a match zone. So again, something to kind of watch out for.
Do you know? It's one of the issues going on in the game currently where defensive assignments will change. Like a cornerback will go from here to here, like they'll switch, they'll get out of position. Is that due to, I've seen three or four different claims on what causes that. Maybe all of them do. I don't know. Some say it's, using the shading. Some say it's, um, gosh, what are this? There's three or four things I've heard. Do you know what causes that, or is that just bad luck?
I don't know exactly what causes it. One suggestion I saw is that for some reason,
Mhm.
if your opponent audibles to a different, I don't know if it's different formation or different play or what it is,
Mhm.
but basically the game will set your defensive back matchups to speed based instead of overall or default or something like
Mhm.
that. So it's almost like they're rerouting each other based upon that speed or something. Again, I don't know that that's exactly the case, but it kind of seems to line up. Not in terms I haven't watched for speed, but it lines up in terms of, who's shifting and why they're shifting and that they're shifting across the field and things like that. So yeah, it's something definitely that they've got to get fixed because otherwise I can only see that being a huge issue for abuse.
Mhm.
And you have to kind of figure out a way to work around that. But at the same time, hopefully that's something EA can get fixed in their first big patch.
I think you're right on that. Now, after you said that, I remember that Sybil on one of his posts on X had said, "Do not use the change your coverage by, speed, or do not use that coach adjustment, because that will, in his opinion, that's one of the main reasons that'll get broke." These two questions go together here. Some people tell us that one of the issues they're having with the game that they want to, practice and play more to understand is downfield passing. What tips do you have there? I will admit I'm firmly in that camp. Like underneath, I'm okay. It seems like downfield, I'm struggling, and I'm not really sure why.
The phrase has always been throw throw a man open, basically.
Hmm.
Don't throw to where he is, throw to where he's going and hit him into an open spot. Uh the best ways are either A, have speed, which speed kills, but
Mm,
then also B, if you're facing zone, look for the different route combinations that will run one defender off and keep another defender shallow so that you can kind of hit the in-between route. That's it's hard to really showcase it, without the
mm.
console right in front of me, but
Right.
at the same time, long story short, it's you need time. So this year, if you don't have time, you're not going to get the pass off. It's not going to be accurate. So you need your offensive line to block. You need to keep in a tight end and a running back possibly or something depending upon the play. But basically, you need to be able to find that time to be able to let your receivers get open. But I will say this year, especially that you can take more shots down the field and
Mm,
actually complete those.
mm.
Those 50-50 balls are actually there to where you can, kind of launch a little bit of a Hail Mary and your team will finally come down with it this year. Obviously, that's not a good strategy to aim for, but at the same
Right.
time, if it comes down to it, that's kind of a worst case scenario. But yeah, definitely, I'll say that you want a mix of different levels
Mm,
of routes. You want deep routes, shallow routes, and medium routes
mm.
to kind of see where where the defense is going to focus on, and then you find the open receiver.
What about the interception drop debate? I don't know if you heard about this over the last few, I'd say a couple days. There's been a pretty big discussion about interceptions, not enough, too many drops in those interceptions. But then you see other people who say, no, I think it's just right. I'm in the camp, right? I'm not seeing, to me, it seems right. It seems good. I don't know the full situation or circumstance for the people who are saying there's thinking too many drops. I don't know if that's maybe online head to head. I know some people who have talked about it are more competitive players, so maybe that's something head to head they're seeing. But I feel like when I'm playing the computer, it feels like it's a pretty good number, pretty good rate. Nothing stands out to me on that front. But it depends what you're calling, what you're playing. What are your thoughts on the interception drops debate?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had much of an issue with it. I think like you said, it's a pretty good rate. I will say there's been some debate that since the patch dropped yesterday, that some people think that interceptions increased.
Mm,
I haven't necessarily seen that, but then at the
mm.
same time, I've kind of been messing with different slider settings, so
Right.
I don't know if that's part of the impact or not. Again, they may have adjusted the sliders, and that's part of the impact. Who knows? But again, I think it's more of a small group of people that think that there was a big shift to where there's too many interceptions, in terms of after the patch specifically. But
Right.
overall, like you, I played the computer a lot. I've played, probably five or so user games, and overall, I haven't seen a terrible large amount of interceptions. I know as a user, you know, I can switch to a guy and make the interception a lot of times, but even then, a lot of those are dropped, which to me they should be.
Mhm.
But then at the same time, playing a linebacker over the middle, I know a ball can basically whiz right by my face mask, and I do nothing about it, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Either the slow reaction time on my part, or just happens to be the ball came in the right spot or something like
Mhm.
that. So. But again, overall, I think it's at a good place.
Mhm.
That's kind of my fear that I was saying earlier is that I don't want EA to kind of overcorrect in any place. Again, part of their whole marketing was that if you can't see it, you can't intercept it. So I hope that that stays true all the way
Mhm.
until, you know, 27 launches.
Quarterback accuracy by the computer. I know I play an All-American with sliders. I believe you are as well. I've noticed I started I don't want to say a dummy dynasty, but a dynasty with Georgia Southern. I want to get used to, building up a small program to understand how the recruiting changes work, to play with a lower tier program to get ready for an online dynasty. The first two games, the opposing quarterbacks combined to go, I believe, 33 of 34. And the first was Fresno State, and the second was USC. Yeah, USC, you would think, top tier program. I would say even the best quarterbacks in the country cannot go 33 of 34 if they competed against air, much less with a real defense in the way. So I went through and started adjusting with sliders, and I'm sure people who listen to us, if you're active on social media, there's the belief, and I'm in this camp. Some of the sliders do not work. One of those being quarterback accuracy sliders, especially for the computer. Are you seeing that first? Are you seeing that high accuracy, and are you seeing where maybe that slider, maybe others are not working?
Yeah, the high accuracy definitely is a big issue.
Mm.
I've seen that since probably the initial launch.
Hmm.
I don't recall if it was a big issue in the beta. I've slept too many times since then, but at the same time, I will say that yes, over the past week, it's definitely been happening. To
It's
where like
frustrating.
the computer, yeah, they can do no wrong. The only time that they have an incompletion is if they threw the ball away or something like that,
Hmm.
that kind of thing. I will say in testing some sliders, there was one set that I tested that it was a little too over the top in terms of what they were doing, but at the
Hmm.
same time, their opinion was that the way to get inaccurate passes was to get more pressure on the quarterback. So if you have more pressure, therefore worse pa or worse pass blocking by the computer, and then also
Mm.
they tweaked the like penalty settings and things like that. Uh,
Right.
though they seem to this person and I've seen others is in the past say the penalty slider impacts gameplay sliders as well.
Okay.
So it's kind of like the old thing was if you turn defensive pass interference way down,
Mm.
then they'll be more aggressive going for the ball, for example. That was kind of the old
Which makes sense.
old idea. Yeah. Basically, the idea is that the computer sees that they're not going to get penalized as much, so they play more aggressive. Or, if you crank it up, then they're going to play less aggressive in theory. So in this case, I think they tuned the penalty slider for blocking or something like that, or excuse me, for holding, so
Mm.
that again you get more pressure. In the end, they had their quarterback slider rating or passing accuracy for both the computer and the human at
Mm.
10,
Wow.
which, yeah, exactly. It was wow. Um,
Hmm.
it the sliders that I was playing with, it almost made the game feel like a totally different game. Like it didn't feel like EA. And in some ways, it was a
Hmm.
good thing.
Hmm.
But at the same time, every single pass I threw was either too high or too low for the receiver I was throwing it to, even if my feet were set and I had a pretty decent accurate quarterback, that kind of thing. So, long story short, it's it is an issue. It's too early to say what the fix is.
Right.
Sliders, again, if you drop them way down, you'll definitely see a lot more incompletions. But again, is that the penalty slider? Is that the pressure on the quarterback? Is that the gameplay slider
Mm.
for passing accuracy? What exactly it is. I think some of the slider builders are still kind of work in progress on what they think is the right fix.
Mm.
But yeah, at the same time, it's there's too many pieces that don't connect right that to
Right.
me, I've always thought that penalty sliders shouldn't impact gameplay.
Right.
If I lower the gameplay slider, then that should impact if there's more penalties. So, for example, or excuse me, sorry, if I increase the penalty slider, there should be more penalties regardless of the gameplay setting. So,
Mm.
to me, those two should not be the same. It should be if I adjust the passing accuracy, that addresses the passing accuracy. Nothing more than is needed. So,
What do you think about the throwing under pressure, the accuracy of that? I mean, you brought that up and it made me realize, or I'm of the opinion that right now there's a lot of times, yes, if they're under pressure, especially the quarterback or even the user, you can get some wild passes. But in my opinion, there's still a lot of times with, the default sliders or even just slight tweaks. There are times that you get their pressure and they're still able to deliver an accurate pass, which I know sometimes happens in real life, but I think that's part of the problem. And it's interesting that OG had mentioned, I don't remember, I think it was the blog, maybe it was on X, I don't remember, that he said that, quarterbacks would have a wider range of missed passes. And it's like, I want to know, maybe I misinterpreted what he meant by that. Like, I think he's accurate in that, yeah, you see more results, but you're just not seeing them enough. I mean, seeing more ball physics, ball angles, ball trajectories than we did in 25, but not enough, not frequently enough. Is that how you would view the under pressure situation that we're in right now?
on default sliders, definitely. Yeah,
Mm.
there's definitely not enough, errant throws
Mm.
on default sliders, even with mediocre quarterbacks that's
Mm.
yeah, they're starting, but at the same time, they're not known for throwing the ball all over the field. They shouldn't be able to complete every pass. They shouldn't be able to launch off their back
Mm.
foot, those kind of things. So it's definitely something that needs some adjustments. Hopefully
Mm.
EA does the adjustments and you don't have to do it with sliders.
Right.
But like I said, if you lower it down to 10, you'll see all kinds of errant throws, high, low, way over
Mm.
his head, that kind of thing. And then, you can get there, but obviously you want to find some sort of middle ground.
Are you using the spectacular catch modifier? I believe it's L1. I don't know. Do you hold it as you go for the catch? Is it in place of the catch? Is it in conjunction with the catch button? First of all, are you using it? If so, what success have you had? I'm not
I
using
have
it.
not.
I'm not really made a focus to try it yet.
Yeah, I have not tried it. I've seen people talk about it.
I have
My
as well.
understanding is that it is a modifier, so you hold L1 on PlayStation and then press the catch button. So, for example, catch in traffic, you can do a spectacular catch in traffic catch in theory. So, same thing for aggressive or the safe catch or whatever. I can't remember what it's called, but
Conservative
um,
catch versus like a
conservative catch. Yeah,
spectacular
yeah.
or aggressive or
So yeah, I mean, as far as I know, it's a modifier, but to me, there's a lot of things that are new in the game that I haven't
Mhm.
had a chance to explore all of them
Right.
just yet.
I'm the same way. Let's talk about something positive in the game. Downfield blocking is something I don't think is getting enough credit. There are times this year, like the very first game I played, even on 25, I would see a receiver down the field and I would run with the ball thinking, if they make the block, this is where I need to go to run, and it never worked. In 26, first game right off the bat, I'm going to run this way because it should work. And lo and behold, terrific block, was able to go right behind it in for the touchdown on a big play. That's something I don't think getting enough credit for. I understand that the line of scrimmage blocking is still kind of a work in progress, but I think downfield, I've been really impressed with the downfield blocking so far. Am I alone, or are you seeing that as well?
No, absolutely not. You're not alone. The very first day that I had the game,
Mm,
one of the very first clips I created was a screen pass to a wide receiver that had
mm,
a convoy in front of him. And
mm,
not only did the offensive lineman block downfield, but so did other
mm,
receivers. And he sprung it open only solely because he had downfield blocking.
mm.
Whereas in 25, it wouldn't have worked. There would have been somebody that went
Right,
unblocked or something like that. So.
right.
Definitely, like you said, it needs praise there because that is a huge thing. It's something we've been
Mm,
asking for a long time, especially
right.
after 25. And to me, I think they got it right.
Mm,
It's something that, like you said, you can set up your blockers, you can run, kind of lead the defender in a direction, and then break at the last second around
mm,
the block or something like that. So. Yeah, definitely that is a big improvement this
mm.
year.
What are your thoughts on wear and tear? I'll tell you right off the bat, that first game, um, maybe it's in rectified because I have not really seen it since the last few days. It was telling me that, when you view him by formation, it was telling me a player was yellow fatigue. So I thought, oh, I better substitute him or, use quick subs or do something. But when I looked at his actual like wear and tear fatigue level, it really wasn't all that low. There were some weird things going on. I think yourself, Quizzy, and I talked about how we had a player, would get subbed out and not come back in. What are your thoughts on wear and tear? I think it's better than last year, but I'm not so sure it's still in a great place.
Yeah, I would agree. Overall, it is
Mm,
better.
mm,
I will say the sliders are a nice improvement there on
mm,
how it affects it and how much they recover and those kind of things.
mm,
Again, this slider set that I tested with, way over aggressive in my opinion, but they made a lot of changes to where wear and tear was very big, but then
mhm,
throughout the course of the game, they gained it all back, kind of thing. They
mm,
gained a lot of it back. So it definitely made you kind of reevaluate how you play the game and who gets
mm.
the touches and things like that. So I say that only because that means sliders are working. And so
Which is
if
good
you
because they don't
want to,
always in
yeah,
EA
exactly.
titles.
Exactly. So if you want to have more wear and tear, you can do that. If you want to have less, you can do that.
Mm,
I will say the quick sub menu, I've definitely used that a lot this year.
mhm,
Just by looking at, who's injured or that kind of thing. Like you,
mm,
if you go to the play call screen and you'll see a guy in yellow, but he's only
mm.
missing one bar. I
He's not
mean,
that bad.
yeah, to me, yellow should be missing, 2 bars, 3 bars, and
Mhm,
then red should be missing 4 bars, or he's dead laying on the sideline or something like that.
right.
Um, but at the same time, yeah, I would, if he's a little dinged up, I don't want to pull him out of the game. I would kind of want to know that, like I would want to
Right.
have some color in between red and yellow. So. But overall, I think it's a good addition. Again,
Mm,
sliders should help kind of fine tune that, and the community will kind of figure out how they want it to work.
mm.
But in general, I think it is definitely an improvement over 25.
Another issue people are seeing, and I've seen it a little bit, not to the extent of some people, but they wonder if EA tried to code in fake injuries. Because they've noticed that late in games, the injuries for the computer seem to increase. I know you could say, well, it's end of game fatigue, but it seems like people are seeing it on drives where maybe they could run out the clock. I know Onikuno hit us up last night and said, I realistically could have ran this clock out, but the computer had enough fake injuries. I had to punt the ball because the clock stopped after those injuries. I've seen it a little bit. I haven't had a ton of close games. I did have one game where I thought it was a little weird or fishy, but it didn't affect the outcome. But then he's mentioned it. I've seen other people mention online. Have you run into that? Do you think EA did that? Is it a coincidence or what's going on there?
I would hope not because I hate that in the real game.
Right.
So don't bring that in to my college football game, especially when, injuries aren't real in the
Hmm.
game.
Right.
There's no one actually getting injured. But yeah, to me, I haven't seen that. I've seen a lot more injuries, like you said, late in the game. Is
Hmm.
that because of fatigue or what's the case? Um, Again, I would hope EA wouldn't do something like that. I would be curious if maybe it's more predominant with certain opponents,
Hmm.
that they like to do it more than others, because I know some schools like to do that more than others. But
Right.
yeah, I would, like I said, I would hope EA would not intentionally do something like that.
I know Onikuno, he mentioned it was on a QB kneel, there was an injury. And that I think that was what
Yeah,
that
to
kind of
me,
resulted in him wondering, okay, no, wait a minute, what's going on here?
yeah, to me, something like that is awful. Like even
Hmm.
in real football, if there's an injury on a kneel down, you're gonna just let the clock run out. I mean,
And you're
it's
gonna know
it's
it's okay, this is faking, or just get off the field.
e-
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in real football, but yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
Like I said, I hope EA didn't do something like that.
To wrap up the gameplay, would you say that 26 came in hotter than 25 and coming in hot? I mean, like, is in issues, bugs, quirks? I would say yes. I know 25, we were kind of blinded by the honeymoon phase of the game returning, and I know there were plenty of issues. I'm not trying to say that it was without them. Um, I'm of the opinion that 26 is coming in a little bit harder than 25, especially with some of these bugs. Now, granted, I never ran into the couldn't snap bug. I never ran into the couldn't kick a field goal bug, but I see those videos. I know some of the guys who have. Those are pretty rough bugs. I'm of the opinion that 26 came in hotter than 25. Would you agree or disagree?
I think so because they had a much shorter runway to release the game,
Hmm.
instead of let's call it 2 years. I mean, I know they had 3, 4 years, but in
Right.
reality, it was, hard and heavy for 2 years. This past year, they've had much less time to be able to get everything right. So, in
Hmm.
theory, yes, that's going to happen. Not that I like it or anything like that. It's just kind of logically, in theory, they should do that. That will happen. That's why I'm of the opinion that they should skip years. But again, I don't think that'll happen for the
Hmm.
bigger titles. But yeah, I would have to agree. Another bug that I run into, and I've seen a couple people mention, but other people say they've never seen it, is the play art getting stuck on the field even while the play is running. I don't know if
I've
you've.
seen your picture, but I've never run into it personally.
It is probably one of the worst things that you're like after you snap the ball, the play art is still on the field. And so you're trying to read the defense, and all of a sudden there's these lines crossing everywhere that there's no way for you to really accurately do it. So that's still in there after the most recent patch. Again, I hope that gets fixed. But yeah, there's a lot of like I don't want to say glaring things. There are a lot of things that there's not enough polish where there should be. And some of those are features that are added to the game that need some attention.
Mm-hmm.
For example, one of the ones that is a big one, and it's to me would cause a lot of people not to start their online dynasty yet, is the fact that you can't do position changes. Even if you change from left tackle to right tackle, their rating caps will increase significantly.
Right. And it
Um,
shouldn't for some of those. Like a
exactly.
guard.
So
Yeah.
just switching from left to right,
Yep.
or
Yep.
switching from middle to weak linebacker or something like that. To me, no, you shouldn't have anything like that. Yes, if
Mm-mm.
you're switching from receiver to cornerback, okay, sure, I can see that. You're learning a totally new, different position. I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, stuff like that, if they did something like that intentionally, so if you were switching from a receiver to tight end and they intentionally want to handicap you, okay, fine, I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
But you would think that they knew that's a new feature. That's something that we really need to test and tune and make sure that it's working as intended. So again, I think part of it is because of the shorter development window. And so obviously going forward next year, we're probably going to have a similar launch with 27 with some, rough around the edges, let's call it,
Mm,
bugs that have to be addressed before you really
mm,
can get as much enjoyment out of the game. Again, 25 came in pretty well polished because they had more time to polish it. As well, they didn't they had some high expectation, or excuse me, they had really big expectations with the
mm,
game, but at the same time, no one was expecting it to have every single feature that 14 had, or
mm,
most people were not. So that kind of gave them a little bit of more grace to where they could focus on the important
mm,
stuff and get kind of the important things right. So yeah, long story short, I think it's just there's a lot of polish that they missed and need to
mm,
it's that attention to detail. And as we
mm,
saw with the development of NCAA, bugs carry over year to year. So until you get those fixed right, it's going to just keep happening and keep
mm.
showing up the
They
next
pile
year.
up. There's some
Exactly.
there's some issues that I'm pretty sure got patched in 25 that reemerged here at the launch of 26, and I think that's really the frustrating part.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it was fixed in 25, you should have immediately pushed that code to 26.
Mm,
In terms of that fix specifically, sort of thing.
mm,
So yeah, I mean, that's part of the problem with development is that you're going to have all of these different branches of code to where this little piece is included here, this little piece is included here, and now when we push them live, this one gets moved up and this one gets forgotten about or something like
mm,
that. So it's again, I'm not giving EA a big pass on that. It's something they've got to get right. They've got to have the right people in
mm,
place that are making sure those things get fixed and handled correctly. Again, at the end of the day, it's a matter of you have a big company with a large development team, put the right
mm,
people in the right places to do things the right way.
mm. What are your thoughts on Dynasty mode, Tommy? I don't know if we need to go through it because I we've only had the game for 10 days, but just generally speaking, what are your thoughts on the improvements to Dynasty?
Uh, to me, there's not a lot changed
Hmm.
other than the coaches themselves. Um, I do like the player archetypes. Obviously, that's kind of goes a little bit hand in hand with Dynasty. I do like the changes there. I will say for anyone else out there listening, raw strength offensive linemen are extremely difficult to increase their ratings. Even if they have a very low awareness,
Mm,
it takes like 8 points to increase their awareness. Whereas for anyone else, it takes like 1 or 2 points. So, uh, hopefully, again, something that EA is aware of and something that patches, but just something to kind of keep in mind. But overall, they didn't do enough to the coaching carousel.
no.
Hopefully, they can at least make some, minor improvements to the logic there. I know as the offensive coordinator for TCU, we went to the playoffs the first year, and I got a head coach offer for Purdue was the best one I got. But then the next year, the best one I got was for like Florida Atlantic, and then a bunch of
Mm,
OC jobs or something like that. So
right.
so yeah, I don't think the coaching carousel is much improved other than just seeing realistic names in there now. Um, the recruiting, the position change bug, to me, that is a huge one.
Mm,
That was always my favorite part is finding those guys that
right.
can play an edge position, or actually a kind of a specialty position, let's say, um, and moving them to that position. So
Mm,
it's that it's never one of those that I want to put a 99 receiver at tight end, but rather it's I want to find that fast linebacker and put him at safety or something like
mm,
that. I want to be able to move those guys around a little bit. So that again, that's got to
mm,
get fixed, and to me, fixed very quickly,
mm,
because otherwise you're going to have people that are moving people around, and they're going to be 3 years in their dynasty and realize that guy's a
he's a
dud and
bum.
he's never going to grow anymore. Exactly.
Mm,
So overall dynasty again not anything earth-shattering in terms of the changes there. The transfer portal, I will say to people, definitely watch how many transfers you allow in each class. I think the default setting is 20, but right
mm,
now all of the bigger colleges get all of the transfer signees, so the small schools lose 20 transfers and 10 seniors, and now all of a sudden they can barely fill a roster.
Right.
So definitely something to kind of keep in mind. Again, hopefully that's part of the tuning that EA does.
Mm,
Um, and then I will say probably the better setting is more around 15 for transfers, 15,
mm,
17 thereabouts. Um, the one thing I wish EA would do, and depending upon how they have it developed, it maybe it never happens, but allow us to sign more than just 35 players.
mhm,
If I lose 20 transfers and 15 seniors, um, that's 35 there. Sure, I can basically replenish my roster, but what if I lose, 30 transfers or however many it is, and I have enough room on my roster, let me fill up my roster basically.
So with Georgia Southern, I got through the first year today. I want to make sure to finish the season before we did a show, and because I want to see the carousel, I want to see the portal firsthand, and I don't remember what the roster size was to start the year, but going into year two, I have 60 players on the roster. So it's like I don't
Yeah.
need to cut players, but I'm gonna have to really offer a bunch of lower tier players the next year just to fill out the roster and maybe hope a couple, develop into something. But I can see where
Well, and that's
people
the
are gonna
thing
want to
is
customize that transfer number because that can really decimate those small schools.
absolutely. And that's the thing is you're never going to be able to build that back up if your
Mm,
transfer numbers are high enough.
right.
Um, you can sign 35, but if you lose 40 year over year or however much it is, you're never
Mm,
going to be able to build up fast enough. And so that's one of my fears that, again, if they EA let us fill in, sign the class plus however many extra,
mm,
you have. I could see that being abused by certain people, but at the same time, there's got to be a balance somewhere in the middle. So yeah, it's definitely something that there's going to be some tweaks and some tuning, whether from EA or from the sliders or something like that. So it's definitely something to play around with and adjust. Like, don't go into your lifelong, your
mm,
30-year dynasty from day one. Have a throwaway dynasty for a
right.
season or two and just kind of get a feel for it.
And work on dynasty settings and gameplay settings. What do you think about the manual assignment of XP? And I have a second part question with that about a potential bug with it. But what do you think about just the ability to do it? Have you played with that much?
Yeah, I've played, I think I'm basically 2 seasons in with TCU. I've
Mm,
started the offensive coordinator. I'm still there as offensive coordinator. I enjoy the ability to progress players and love seeing that they have, 50 skill points to spend in the offseason or something like that. Kind of see those really players that really jump up in the offseason. I definitely see why EA put that 25% penalty cap in there for manual progression because if you there's some cheating ways to get around it, but B,
mm,
if you put all of your skill points just into ratings and never into abilities, you're going to build up your overalls very fast for your
mm,
players. So to me, that kind of gives you an advantage. Now, again, sometimes abilities are better than ratings, and sometimes ratings
mm,
are better than abilities. So it's a balance, but at the same time, the computer's going to spend in a lot of abilities. They're going to spend in, ratings as well.
mm,
But they're never going to correctly target where they should do. So, for example, a quarterback, if it costs 8 points for accuracy or 5 points for accuracy, but yet they can bump up their awareness with 2 points. Well, they're going to spend the 2 points more often
right.
than not, that kind of thing. So, um, there's that. B, based upon everything I've seen, if you can earn XP during the season, it's very small. I did see one player, my starting quarterback in a sim dynasty, earn one skill point in a quick sim of the season.
Huh.
Nobody else earned a single skill point. And I didn't have auto progression on or anything like that. So yeah, it's that again, I think that's a bug that EA hopefully is addressing.
Mm.
Um,
That's what I had with my
but long
season.
story
I did
short,
not gain any skill. I thought there must be a bug here because I didn't gain any skill points throughout the season. It wasn't until I got to the
yeah.
off season finally.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and again, I think it's somewhat known. I don't know that anybody has talked about it, and I don't think I've seen EA mention it
Mm,
themselves. So hopefully, it's something that does get addressed.
mm,
I hope that's not by design because There's actually a cheat that you can do today
Mm.
by holding all of your skill points until the next year. And during the season, during recruiting, if you have a certain ability, coach ability unlocked, then all of these players will gain incredible interest in you because you upgraded a player to a capped rating. I can't remember exactly where it's at
Mm.
or what spot it's in, but
Hmm.
basically it's a way to sign a 5-star class as a 1-star school, basically. It's really over the top. And again, I hope that's something
Right.
EA does. I think most dynasties will need to put in some sort of a rule that says you have to spend your points before the start of the preseason or something like that.
Hmm.
Otherwise, have some sort of penalty for them or something like that. But again, hopefully that's something EA kind of addresses there.
Would you say people are safe to start a dynasty? I know comes down to the individual, but people who are in the online dynasties, are they safe to start? Should they wait for a roster update? The problem is we don't know when that's coming. We can go off last year and assume around the start of the real college football season, we'll get an update with the freshmen, for example, and the late sign-ons, late additions. Um, I know we have our own debate when to start a dynasty on that because of the reasons, because EA doesn't communicate very well. Uh, just in your opinion, is it safe to start or should they wait?
So literally in our online dynasty, obviously you voted too.
Mm.
It was literally 50-50. Do we start, as soon as possible, or do we wait until kind
Mm.
of a guess of when we think the first patch may drop?
And I should add,
Um,
we don't know if some of those fixes, sometimes in Dynasty, sometimes you have to restart a Dynasty for it to take effect. And that's, I think, the biggest fear is if there's some kind of fix that only happens on a new Dynasty, do you really want to waste a month?
yeah, to me, I think that's kind of
Mm.
of the bugs that I know about. I don't think any of them would necessarily require a restart.
Hmm.
Um, again, I don't know exactly what the fix is that EA will do, but I don't
Right.
think it'll require a restart. Now, that said, if you do a position change on a player and he drops his player caps increase on a certain rating or whatever, then that's going to be it. So it's not like
Mm.
EA is going to all of a sudden fix that and open it back up.
Yeah, that guy's
It's
locked that
it,
way.
he's
He's
locked
done.
out. Yeah, I mean, he's sitting the bench for the rest of his career.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, it's I think it's okay to start it with the caveat of knowing what the bugs are, how to avoid them,
Mhm.
what the tunings that you want to do, that kind of thing. So I'm of the opinion that we wait another week.
Mm.
I, I have no insider information, but I want to believe in EA, and part of this is hopeful, and part of this is ready to play the dynasty, but also play it right. I'm
Mm.
hopeful that there's a patch next week, the 24th. EA kind of targeted Thursdays last year, so that's kind of why
Mm.
I'm leaning to that, but that's the only reason. But again, there's no reason to believe that other than just a guess or a hunch on my side. So,
Right.
long story short, I would recommend to wait about a week or so. But at the same time, I think if that patch doesn't come, I think we're okay to start. We just have to, kind of again know what the bugs are and how to avoid them.
What about the other game modes, Tommy? Have you played Road to Glory, Road to the College World Playoff, or Ultimate Team much?
I have not played Road to Glory at all this year.
Okay.
The biggest biggest frustration I had with 25 is still in effect. Basically, you don't earn any skill points at all in the off season. Everyone else progresses, gets 50 skill points or whatever, and you get zero. So all
Right.
you can do is progress the little bit during the regular season. So that's my biggest frustration with the game. That I still can't believe that's by design, but at the same
I know
time,
it. I
it was
agree.
there last year, but it's there this year too. So I have to assume it was. But yeah,
Mm.
that's the biggest issue I have with Road to Glory. I would be curious to see, it it is the high school season worth it just to kind of have a little bit new experience? But everything I know about the college season is that there's not a lot of changes. So,
No.
is it worth investing any very much time there?
I did do Road to Glory. I did the high school part. And maybe this is the rare year you don't want to do it first because you're still trying to figure out the gameplay changes and gameplay advancements that I felt like one, I'm still trying to get my feet wet, figure out how this thing works. Two, the playbook is so limited. I wasn't a huge fan of it. In my opinion, the high school teammates are not very good. The number of drops I had on wide open like a run back out of the backfield, wide open, need this third down conversion. I make the right read and it just bounces off his hands. I know it happens in real life. But my thought is Road to Glory is probably the one mode where it's okay if things go over the top because that's a single player mode. You're locked in. You're not competing on leaderboards. You're not competing head to head. So if you want to cheese it up or have better luck, why not? So to me, that was a pretty big frustration point that it kind of I don't have a fair opinion on the moment, high school moments aspect, because I have such a sour taste from the playbooks and a sour taste from my teammates not being very good. But I got to, finish the high school, signed, and I have no inclination to go back. And maybe I'll wait till I get better at the game and then go back and try it again, the high school again, because once I understand the game, maybe it won't be as frustrating. But I will say my experience playing it this past week was I got signed, I got the trophy for doing the hat selection, and as right now, I have no inclination to go back. I'd rather spend my time in Dynasty.
Yeah, that's exactly where I am, and eventually I'll play it, like you said, if nothing else, just to get the trophy. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, I think there is plenty of opportunity for EA to improve that, even just
Mm.
this year with small patches. But at the same time, to me, the mode needs a lot of attention as well for next year.
It's like
So
they spruced up the front end. Like you said, the core is the same, which part of that is okay and part of it is not. And I agree with you. That whole not getting a boost in the offseason is so frustrating because in 25, you think you'd be signing with a school and your overall says you are the starter. And then you get there, the other guys have passed you because they got off-season points. And it's like, this is frustrating. This is
yeah,
That's a poor design decision. And maybe there's logic on their end. All I know is, on this side of the counter, don't like it.
yeah.
I cannot believe that came out that way.
No, I completely agree. And I've seen memes about that basically they took a photo of their player and all he's doing is sitting in his dorm room studying because
Yeah.
you have to spend your points to study in order to be able to
Mm.
stay on the team or otherwise you'll get cut or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely one of those things that there's got to be better balance there. It's not fun. I mean,
Hmm.
um, I get the appeal, and I know that it could be a lot better
Hmm.
than what EA has kind of produced to this point. Um, it's not there. So it's not going to be something I spend a lot of time with. I'll play at least one career at some point, but it's not on my top list of priorities.
I say I have not played Road to the College Football Playoff. I played that last in 25. I played it in the spring to finally get the trophies for it. I'm gonna wait till I figure out the game. I'm not gonna go there and get embarrassed. I already know I'm, average to struggling right now. I don't need to get that rubbed in my face. Ultimate Team, I've done a few challenges. I do that sometimes. I'm team no money spent. I don't really keep up with the new cards that come in. I see it on social media. I see, well, that's cool, but I don't pursue them. I just do the challenges. Um, Use the coins I get from there to buy some cheap packs. But I'm not a big Ultimate Team guy. To me, it's the same as I mean, it's better. Don't get me wrong. Some of the quality of life improvements they've made are better, but I'm not the guy to ask for detailed Ultimate Team notes. But I am more than the people who are opposed to it.
Yeah, no, I'm a little bit. I'm like you said, I'm more than the people opposed to it, but not a whole lot. Like you, I'm team no
Mm.
spend money.
Mm.
To me, the experience is frustrating just trying to navigate through like opening packs and
It's
setting your
clunky.
roster and things like that. It's
Mm.
clunky and it's slow and there's all these animations that okay, it's fine that
It's fine
if
the
you
first
really want to
100
see
times.
those, that's fine, but let me eventually turn them off, or something.
Mm.
Um, it's there's plenty of room for improvement there, but at the same
Mm.
time, EA makes so much money with the way it is. So why would they invest a ton of new
Mm.
investment in
Right.
redesigning that or overhauling it?
It's one of those, like I appreciate the work the guys who work on it do. Like the art team is cool. The stuff they do is awesome. Like I wish I could design art that looks like that. So I mean, but at the same time, maybe I don't want the company to make that feature, feature one and feature 1A. It's fine if it's feature two or feature three. So that's probably why I don't want to put much money in. This do talk about what the community says. We ask basically the same questions we've asked each other. What do you really like about College Bowl 26? What do you need to practice or play more to improve to get better? And what has you frustrated or upset? And a lot of these are going to echo what we have said. Grizz 100K says the quarterback AI in Road to Glory is still horrible. Same with O line logic and Sim in there is also still broke. Not a big Road to Glory fan based on those. Taylor says it's good, better than last year. First year back Magic is missing. I agree with that. He goes, I'll still play all year though. I think I'm in the same boat. Texas Mudcat, love it. Needs patch for penalties. Transfer logic on injured players and few other gameplay items, but much better than 25. I think I'm on the same path, but I want to see how patches play out first. My concern, and I'm not predicting this, my concern is there enough fixed and or will be fixed to where this game is playable year round? Because right, if these bugs keep emerging or don't get fixed, I could see a path where a lot of people fade off earlier than they did with 25. And part of the problem is having a good 25 is that if you put in 300, 500, 2,000 hours, maybe this year you fade off a little early because you played so much in 25. And I his point on penalties is interesting. I have not seen a lot of people talk about it. We still don't have face masks in the game, do we? I mean, they that was one of those like you see the
No.
animation, but it doesn't actually get called. And it was something that they generally had pretty good in 14. And I'm not trying to be romantic or nostalgic, but at least it was a real thing back then. And we're 2 years in, and it's still not a thing.
Yeah, no, I've not seen a single mask penalty. I will say I have seen some pass interference. I have seen some uh the CPU throwing past the line of scrimmage.
Mm, hmm.
So that I mean there's some variety of penalties there.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely a lot of room for improvement.
Coach Gunn says the bugs are frustrating, obviously. Dynasty's improved though, minus the bugs. Just waiting for that first major patch to start my dynasty. I'll skip mine because I just talked about, I think, all those. Let me bring up one here. And everybody talks about like the presentation of this game and 26 is awesome. I think top to bottom they did a really good job, especially when you start a game. It feels like you're watching to me an ESPN or ESPN ABC broadcast. So it feels like a big game. A small thing that I have not seen mentioned. I want to know if I'm alone on this, especially on defense. The player indicator is too small. There are times I'm switching to a player or switching pre-snap or even during the play, and I don't know who I've switched to. There are times I've switched and I've pulled a corner out of position and I've gotten torched, and I go back and watch replay and realize what I did. I'm like, I had no clue who I was controlling. I thought I was switching to maybe a defensive lineman to a linebacker. No, am I alone on that timing? Because like I said, I've not seen anyone else mention this, but I never had this issue in 25. But I need to go back and see what did they change about it. Something's different, but I don't know what they
Yeah.
changed. But it's smaller.
I think I know what you're talking about, and I've kind of seen the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, 2 points there. One is the switch tick works a little bit different this year.
Mm-hmm.
So depending upon who you're controlling, if they're rushing or not, then you may be, even though you're engaged with a blocker, if you hit the stick to try to do a
Mm-hmm.
move, it'll do a switch stick anyways. So
Mm-hmm.
unless they were blitzing from the beginning, then the switch stick will trigger in. So just something to be aware of there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then as well, I did see, I think it was Mr. Civ talking
Mm-hmm.
about the settings that he changes at the beginning. And one of those is an accessibility change for larger icons.
But that
It's
doesn't apply to
interesting
this one. But I do that
that
though.
yeah, that's what I was wondering is I don't know if that would help or not, but yeah, that's
Mhm.
it's something that's yeah, it's hard to see and definitely I've caught myself at times not know who I'm controlling.
Mhm.
Um,
Part of
I
it's the
think they're
names
on
are
the
too
screen,
small.
but
Mhm.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, yeah, there's definitely some improvement that you could do there. Um, yeah, long story short, I haven't seen that as much maybe as you have, but it's
Mhm.
something that EA could do better.
CK Stream says I'm mainly Dynasty because it was very playable, a lot of challenges, variety of ways to play, reward long-term experience. It's a great game. He says I need to get better understanding archetypes and how they fit with schemes and simulation. Big Daddy K25. The game nails the atmosphere. Need to get better running the ball. You and me both. The game has too many bugs and glitches. Some plays don't work. Trophies giving out when they weren't supposed to be given out. Delaware and Missouri State Bowl end zones are completely bright red. I know in our Discord Steeler fan, and I think I had read about it before he posted the picture. Um, they're completely botched. I don't know what happened. If it was a work in progress and they forgot to finish them. But if you make a bowl game with either team, as of last I knew, it's like bright red bowl art. It's just something that
Mm.
slipped through the cracks. Michael Hamilton says the good is the quality of life and realism of the transfer portal. He wants to learn how to throw the ball downfield. You and me both. Bad glitches and bugs in computer AI. And finally, US and A says hard to run the ball. Weather is weird. Blocking on return game is awful. Those are 2 points I want to bring up. Have you seen the weather thing? I wish and I'm not refuting anybody's claim. If they think there's too much rain in the game, I will second their opinion on that. But I wish I knew what schools are they playing as. Is it a universal thing in Dynasty where everybody's getting too many rain games, or is it bad info for certain locations? I'm playing Georgia Southern. At least for my home games, I think I only had two for the season that I remember. It did not seem overdone, but from what I read online, it sounds like some guys are seeing rain games every game, and I'm not seeing that, but I'm not refuting their claim. I just wish I knew like what's wrong here. Where is EA getting is it their data or what's going on here?
Yeah, I'm with you. It didn't stand out to me. I mean, yeah, there may have been more rain games this year than typically last year,
Mhm.
but it wasn't so much so that it's like every week or anything like that. Yeah, it's one of those that again, I'm curious what causes it. Is it certain scenarios or certain teams or something like that? But
Mhm.
hopefully EA gets that patch because yeah, I can imagine that's pretty annoying, especially this year with the weather affecting physics more, affecting wear and tear more, and things like that. So it's definitely something they got to get right.
I had a game today. I was playing at home against Old Dominion, and they were, I believe, same record, but the overall and offensive defense ratings were several points lower than mine. It was a rain game at home. They destroyed me. If the weather had any effect, it sure didn't affect them. I left that game wondering, are there actually weather effects, or is this just something they're saying? Because it sure didn't seem like it. He says also blocking on return game is awful. It was in 25 as well. I know when I played JB last week for some of our launch live streams, he thought the blocking was a little better, and I said, I think what you're seeing is me putting people out of position. I don't think it's actual improved blocking. I know it's going through my season with Georgia Southern. That blocking is not better in my opinion. I think it's going to be something that the community is going to have to push for special teams to get a better fix in 27. I don't think they can do it in 26 in a patch because if it was that easy, they would have done it for default. But what is your thoughts on the blocking on special teams? I think it's pretty abysmal.
I think it's basically exactly the same as it was last year.
Mm,
I'd be surprised if they really
mm,
touched it at all. Um, I have returned one kick for touchdown, I think.
mm,
Um, but it was just kind of just happened to get lucky kind of thing and broke open.
mm.
Um, it is something that you've got to kind of it requires a lot of luck. And to me, the big challenge is that there's not a 30-yard return. All there is a 15, 20-yard return or a 99-yard return. There's no in between, you know.
Right.
So yeah, there has to be some way to improve that. In 25, depending upon sliders and things, you could break things open, especially with the right player and happen to call the right return at the right time.
Mm,
But yeah, there needs to be more gamesmanship there. There needs to be something about how you can get better and put the right players in the right position. And if you call a left return and they call a right kick, then it gets blown up or something like
mm,
that. Again, to me, there has to be some more of a mechanic than just pressing X and then kicking the ball and everyone downing it in the end zone or whatever. Um, yeah, there's plenty of room for
mm,
improvement, but again, either way, there's got to be some improvement there. Obviously, we know special teams doesn't sell copies of the games like offense does, but at the same time, we want to get things right. They put in a lot of attention to kicking over the past few years, a lot of new animations this year for kicking. So, you know,
mm,
let's continue to give some special teams some love there and kind of make the blocking both on the punt blocking, like trying to block a punt, to me, that almost never happens. But then
mhm.
also like kick return blocking, make it to where it's more of a gameplay effect.
Before launch, we talked about on our previous show, and also the issue kind of flared up before launch. After our last show, yet before launch of Equipment Gate, people, to summarize it, people who are into equipment, like say for Road to Glory, or they want to make players look like their real life counterparts, were a bit upset that they didn't feel enough equipment was added. Once the game, they didn't really know that though until the game came out. They kind of based it off trailers and screenshots to figure there wasn't a lot added. EA had said, we got a long list of things. We never did get the list. But once the game came out, you realize pretty quickly it was the licensed items, for lack of a better term, helmets, face masks, some sleeves. I believe that was it. Somebody who's more in equipment than me would have to weigh in on it, which is frustrating to those guys because they have a list of, they want the single leg sleeve. They want some different sleeve options as well that it's tough because it seemed like it was almost a fight within the community. Either you were really, really upset for wanting it or at EA for not having it, and then they were also getting shouted down by people and insulting them for wanting those things. And I personally, I'm kind of in the middle. Like I'm not big into it. It's one of those that it's kind of like Ultimate Team to where I appreciate some of the details and nuances of it, but I'm gonna let somebody else fight for it because I'm not as well versed. However, I will say I do appreciate some of their arguments, and I think they need to recognize that when they're putting out pictures of Ryan Williams and saying you cannot get your cover athlete to look like this in this game, with the single leg sleeve or other items, that's a winning argument. That maybe not with EA, but at least to convince people who aren't necessarily don't have a dog in this fight. If you show them that screenshot and say, "Hey, you can't do this in this game," by the way, people who aren't into equipment realize, "Oh, that's an issue. That's a problem." So my theory on why they didn't add it, I was one, they can't get to everything, but it seemed like they focused on the license stuff, and I don't believe leg sleeves are necessarily licensed because you don't see a manufacturer on that. That's buried underneath their pants on the hip. You're not seeing it. So my theory is that they cater to those items first, which is understandable to an extent. Obviously, they want things like hanging mouth guards. They want team back plates, which is very common. I think most schools on the back of that name on the back plate they have a school logo. Tell me, where do you stand on this? It's one of those that I don't know if they should expect much in patches. I wouldn't be surprised if EA tried to squeeze in something to throw them a bone. I do feel like I would probably recommend or tell those guys you better hope for 27. I think your voice has been heard. I hope your voice has been heard. It probably was the loudest pre-release voice that was out there, at least on social media. I Not to diminish their cause or effort. I hope it doesn't drown out some other big items, like the dynasty improvements, carousel improvements. Hopefully, EA can listen with both ears because I see the equipment stuff needs to get in there. I'm not going to push against it. But where do you stand on this? I know it was a long rambling monologue, then I wasn't trying to do that, but I want to people who aren't familiar understand what's going on with it.
Yeah, no, I'd say I'm aligned with you. I want the game to look right. I want the game to
Mm-hmm.
feel right. I don't necessarily care about the different tweaks, but at the same time, if my player looks awkward or has the wrong equipment or something like that, then definitely it's going to stand out and I'm going to notice it. Usually I'll find, one or two key players on my roster that I tweak their equipment just to kind of give them a little bit different look and feel. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm like you. I'm not the guy that knows all the right equipment or
Mm-hmm.
what's missing or what should be in or anything like that. Any more options to be added, I'm all for it. So, by all means. Like you said, they kind of, or to me, they went about it the wrong way, like the attacking the wrong people
Some of
and
them did.
everything. Yeah, some of them did.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Um, I I will say that equipment and that area should not be impacted based upon the amount of time they spend on Dynasty, for example. It
Hmm.
should be completely different developers, different, designers, that kind of thing. Yeah, there may be some overlap there, but it's in theory, you shouldn't lose time developing Dynasty because you added new equipment. Now, maybe they don't have the right people in place for the equipment. I'm not saying equipment guru, he seems to be good at his job, and
Hmm.
I'm not saying him, but I'm just saying that they don't have the right, developers dedicated X amount of hours, out of their month to focus on getting new equipment added or
Maybe they're
something like
undermanned or
that.
underfinanced in that area,
Right,
which
exactly.
which I can understand those guys' frustration because you just came off the top selling sports game in U.S. history. So I can see where you might
Exactly.
expect a little more than just a handful of licensed items.
Yeah. And to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think pretty much every single equipment piece is something that we inherited from Madden.
I
Um,
think you're right because those arm sleeves were in last year because the somebody asked him, the Equipment Guru on X, they said, "Are these in the game?" And he said, "Yes."
yeah.
Pre-release that came out. So yeah, those were Madden 25 items.
Yeah, but I'm saying even just in general, I think we inherited it from Madden. So until you see it in Madden, you're not going to see it in college football. So yeah, it's good to be loud. I will say being loud at launch is not nearly as effective as being loud at, October, November, that time frame where EA is trying to finalize the budget for how much time they're dedicating and what items exactly need to be added. And, oh,
Mhm.
if you want hanging mouthpieces, well, we've got to add the physics for that to look right, which to me, I think could probably be pretty difficult. It could look very awkward, if it's not done exactly right.
Do you
So
remember like the mascot tails, the physics on those last year? Like
yes, yeah,
you'd cut to the cutscene and it's flopping between their legs and might look like something other than a tail. Or
yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
the towels was it 14 or even some in 25 cents the towels would be at
Would be
full
yeah,
staff for lack of a
yeah,
better
yeah,
term.
exactly.
So
Yes,
yeah, the
yes.
physics on it is an issue. Or it could
So
be.
yeah, I mean, and imagine them running down the field. Obviously, if they're running away from the camera, you're not going to see it. But at the same time, if you go into the replay, you're going to see it there. And so if it
Mm,
doesn't look right, people are going to complain. So
mm.
again, that's something that would take a lot of hours to get it right. So yeah, maybe they don't spend time on that. But like you said, leg sleeves to me, that's a low hanging fruit. That should be
Because you have
something
that in a way. Because you have
exactly,
the set of them, so then you just cut the model in half and make two art assets, and then put the two files. I know it's not that simple, but it's simpler than
right?
designing the hanging mouthpieces. I have to be correct on that one.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but then even things that already exist in the game and have existed in the game the same way for years, like the QB flak jacket or the tape around the ankles, both of those are way too bulky. I mean,
Mm,
like if you compare side to side a real football player to their uh player in the game, it looks night and day difference in terms of
right.
their build. So again, those are things that have been there since, NCAA '06, let's call it, or '07 or whatever. Those have been in there forever. And it's something that should be easy, I want to say, to fix. You want your game to look right. You want to be able to take a screenshot of, so you want to be able to take a picture of Arch Manning and be able to compare him to his real life one. And no, his face may look a little different or something like that, but at least the body and the build should be, relatively close. And today you can't do that. So again, I definitely get where they come from. I definitely get the attention that they want added to the game. Like you said, the game sold incredibly well last year. Why couldn't we add that?
Mm,
Obviously, they were silent before launch about most of that stuff, and so we
mm.
kind of have an idea why. Um, I
No
think
news is
some of
sometimes
it,
bad news. No news
exactly.
is not always good news.
Yeah. So I think some of it maybe could be added. But at the same time, EA would have had to have already planned for something like that. So unless they haven't already planned for it by now, I don't think it's going to get added in 26. Like I said, keep your voice loud. Don't attack devs or anything like that. Don't
Mm,
go about it the wrong way, but keep your voice loud if you really, really want something like that to be added.
I don't know if you saw, Kumi Goomba did in response to somebody say that the equipment guys had noticed like the heads weren't quite right on the players and the helmets weren't sitting around the players. They had no necks. But he did say that he believes he's found a fix that will come in an update. Now, maybe he shouldn't have said that, but I think if he said that, that's pretty far down the road and will be coming. I don't want to say sooner than later, but at least it'll be before 27. So there is some stuff. I know it's not a new item, but once you start doing those comparisons, like you said, of a real life player to an in-game player, the neck thing was weird, and the way the helmet sit is weird. You really notice it in the pictures. I don't notice it when playing, but once you get it pointed out to you, you're like, yeah, that's not right. That probably how did that pass the initial test?
Yeah, no, I agree. You saw some early release video from, I don't remember who it was, but basically you could see to where they literally had no neck. Their
Mm,
helmet was sitting on their shoulder pads, basically.
right.
So yeah, it's like you said. I did see the tweet from Equipment Guru that they're going to work on fixing that. Hopefully, it's sooner rather than later. But at the same time, um, it's an annoying bug that it is a bug that needs to be fixed.
Mm. And to wrap up the show, let's talk a little college basketball. I don't know if you saw this, Tommy. Matt Brown with extra points with Matt Brown. Thank God he bought a website that has the same name as his, or it'd be pretty weird. He's on vacation, but while he was gone, he was able to get some information. We knew that other companies had tried to get that bid to make a licensed college basketball game. It was a pretty safe assumption is 2K, and that was able to come out. And the reason that came out is was once it came out that EA was had the bid or about to get the bid, 2K started contacting schools asking them not to approve the EA bid. It's funny, but not funny all at the same time. Uh, some of this I can't share because it's behind Matt's paywall, but he does mention that 2K was one of the three companies to make a bid. I really want to know who that third company is. I'm not sure who it would be. When the CLC recommended that the schools take EA's proposal, 2K started contacting schools directly with their own proposal, asking them to delay approval of the EA game. And that basically broke open otherwise we would not have known all of this. What 2K wanted to do. was a non-exclusive model for a limited number of D1 basketball teams that would be a 5v5 tournament gameplay format integrated into NBA 2K My Team mode via downloadable content. A separate purchase in addition to purchase of the NBA game. 2K would then assess the viability of a standalone game based on some milestones for 2K28, including DLC sales had to meet 3 million and have a 50% propensity to buy a full game from consumer surveys. Basically, after that, any commitment to a standalone game would become at 2K's discretion. I believe Matt has a lot of this behind the paywall, but basically, every monetary figure in there, EA was paying more. 2K just wanted to start with 16 teams in year one, go to 32 in year two, 68 in year three, whereas EA is saying in year one of their game, they're going to have 700 plus schools between the men's and women's and full rosters. Why wouldn't you recommend that bid? I mean, it's almost insulting and laughable what 2K was trying. I understand what 2K is going to wanted to do here. They wanted to ease in. I mean, I'll cut them some slack. They wanted to, put their foot in the water first. But you have to realize that other companies are bidding on this. You have to go a little bit more in than this, and you already have a basketball game built. So EA
Yeah.
is the one that should have been toes in the water if you stop to think about it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Everything on paper, why would you even consider the other proposal, one versus the
Mm,
other? I mean,
mm,
the EA's is bigger, they're spending more money, they're including more players. They already released a successful college football game. Everything on paper sounds
mhm.
like you would want to lean EA. To
Right.
me, 2K dropped the ball, sorry for the pun there, but dropped the ball by not jumping over all over this exact example or this exact design that they have right now 3 years ago.
Yep.
They already had the basketball engine. They already had the basketball game. If you're just talking about player assets, why couldn't they have already done that?
And
That
they
could have been
did.
something
Go ahead.
that, as I say, it could be something they did to a much larger degree
Mm.
than before because they already have most of that already in place. So again, they lost out and they're trying to slow play it now when EA is trying to go full bore. So no, it's to me, I don't see why anyone would choose 2K's proposal.
And this is one of the 2K in the past. They've had Paolo Banchero show up in my team, and I want to think one of their years of their single player mode. I can't. My player, they had college experience in there, so they dipped their toes in it. Granted, they weren't licensed players, but it was the teams. Like you said, I don't know. It's like they fell asleep at the wheel here. Like when they could have pushed this 3 years ago and gotten ahead of the curve. It's like they waited to see how college football did when they should have been doing their plan 3 years ago that they already had that they proposed here. I'm baffled. I mean, 2K gets
Yeah,
the reputation for being so smart, and it seems like somebody fell asleep at the wheel.
to me, as soon as the NIL was announced and open in real life, they should have been all over it. They should have said, okay, let's
Mm,
let's do it, 1 year, 2 years max. Instead, now we're what, 4 or 5 years later, and
mm.
they're saying we want to slow play it, and it doesn't make any sense.
No, especially when, uh, like you said, when NIL was a big opportunity to do it. I think when EA announced college football coming back, they probably should have started doing this. When EA sent out the contracts for the players to get into college football, they should have started doing this. Like they had several years, and we don't know how long this bidding was going on for. I can't think it was multiple years. I mean, it sounds like they had their chance and they blew it. And I would love to know who that third company is, Tommy. Am I drawing am I short circuiting? Who is the other company that would be interested in something like this? That's a sports sports company out there that does something basketball related. Of course, EA's been out of console basketball since 2018, but who would the third company possibly be?
Maybe 989 Sports is coming back, breaking news. But no, I mean, I'm with you. I can't imagine it's one of the existing big
Mm,
players. I would wonder if it's even like a full simulation basketball game, or is it just more of like a football manager
mm.
style approach or something like that? Again, we don't have very much more details here other than this. 2K lost out on loads of opportunity. They had, a head start. They were the hare in the race,
Mm.
and the turtle came way behind and is going to win in the end.
Yeah, it's one of those that I suppose 2K thought if they proposed a non-exclusive model, they thought that maybe they could get both. we'll let EA work on theirs and they'll let us do ours. But then I think EA's plan is so grandiose. I mean, maybe to its own detriment, but its plan was so grandiose that the CLC would. Why wouldn't you recommend that one? I mean, that like we
Yeah,
said, that
absolutely.
I just can't fathom why they. 2K usually is considered so smart on things, and here I'm just like, wow, what did they do? What did they do here?
Yeah. And to be clear, like you were saying, EA may completely fail. They may get the license and have the standalone game only for themselves and
Mm-hmm.
then not deliver it very well. It's entirely possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at the same time, your bid should be that, hey, we want to do things the right way. And
Mm-hmm.
2K is not the right way.
No, and they had a good college basketball game in the past. I know, granted, they'd have to bring it back and work on it, but at least they make a current basketball game. I mean, they, like you said, they had such a massive lead here, and they blew it. To put it nicely. With that, we'll wrap up this edition of the Gaming Tailgate Podcast. We'll be back regularly with, we got our thoughts on the game out there, the community's thoughts on the games out there, maybe some tips and tricks stuff. Once Tommy gets recruiting figured out and running the ball figured out and wants to share with us, we'll be back with those. I need those tips immediately. In the meantime, check out our information central at thegamingtailgate.com. Yes, this was a big pre-release thing, but post-release, a new area we've had fan resources section. We have links to all the stuff out there around the community. Granted, we're partial to our celebrations guide and stunts guide, which are printable, but then you have good stuff at cfb.fan, collegefootball.gg, teamcrafters.net, and also go to CFB Showdown, free online competition site. If you click that link there, you'll join our TGD community. This is for if you want to play online against people, play a friend, but also track it through the site. That way you can have a little more freedom in how you play and who you play. Just great stuff there from Shotmaster. So for Tommy and JB, who's out on assignment, I am CDJ. Thank you for watching and listening to this edition of the Gaming Tailgate Podcast.